All right, Vince, welcome to the podcast. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Appreciate your having me.
Yeah, I'm just a generous guy, I'm just over here trying to rack up views and take people's time and, just exploit everyone to the maximum potential that I can.
That's what it's all about.
uh, I've been vaguely familiar with you, and I've briefly talked to you on a number of different sets. The first one was Henry's on Analog Rainbow. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and that was a couple of years ago. And then as I've gotten more acquainted with the Dayton crowd in
Mhm.
Ohio, then I've frequented seeing you a little bit more. So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
yeah, the last one I saw you on was Brian Jones's proof of concept for the cyberpunk thing,
Oh,
which was pretty cool because you had like a little bit of like cyberkinetic makeup done, and
yes,
you were playing like a
prosthetics.
sensei, and it seemed like you had fun playing that role. It seemed
I
like it was
did.
something different for you.
I did. I'm excited to see how it comes out. Look
Yeah.
like a wild idea.
So you started acting in like what, 2015, 2016?
Yeah. Film stuff, I think that is about what it was. Has it been that long? No. No, it was like not long before the pandemic. Maybe it was 2016. I guess it's been that long. Yeah, yeah.
How'd you get started in it? Like, why acting? Did you like, I want to be in front of camera?
You know what? I mean, all right, it's gonna sound cliche, but when I was a little kid.
When I was a little
I
boy.
mean, yeah, I was fascinated with everything, video and audio. I mean, I was into music too. My dad was actually a drummer in a band, in a rock band in the '60s,
Mm-hmm.
and so music, art. I mean, it all really impressed me, and uh, so TV and I were really close. We had a pretty tight
Okay.
relationship. And I think I studied it, you know, even the commercials. I mean, to this day, I get like rattle off jingles and commercials and stuff like that from back then.
Hmm.
But
That you were
and
in?
so was that?
That you were in? Or just from
No, no,
watching it?
just stuff I watched,
Oh,
and then
okay.
and then my folks were really into like classic film and stuff like that, like old movies and old TV shows, and they like shared their enthusiasm for that stuff with me. So had a love for that, and I was drawn to that kind of thing. But I didn't really, I didn't pursue it. I became a musician in school,
Hmm.
and then when I had the opportunity, for instance, in college, to be in a musical, like a roommate was in a show, and they were like, "Hey, Vince, you should audition too, and be in this show." And I was like, and a part of me, got really excited at the idea. Um, and so I went and, auditioned, why not be in a show with my roommate, and ended up getting part. And so did a couple of musicals in college that way. But when I was doing that, of course, it was the only thing I thought about. So I wasn't getting too much studying done. Wasn't being a very good student.
Uh,
But it also seemed to come really naturally, performing like that. Well, music is performing.
yeah.
So they're, the dynamics are very similar. And, that was pretty much it, stage stuff. But then I was at work one day, working here at the university. I mean, I'd started a family, and I'd been a musician for a period of time years ago, but then eventually came home and was helping my grandfather take care of my grandmother for a period of time, and went to work for the city and then for the university here, Miami University here in Oxford. And my brother called me up. This would have been like 2016 or so.
Mm.
In the meantime, I'd had an opportunity. Yeah, my heart leapt at an opportunity to be in a local community theater show with my daughter. So that was the first time in a long time that I'd done anything like that. And we auditioned for. Well, my wife had suggested auditioning for taking my daughter to audition for Fiddler on the Roof, a local community theater show. And that's so I was there, and the guy that was directing was like, well, why don't you audition too? And I was like, who, me? And so I sang a song for him, and they were like, how about you take a part too? How about you both take a part?
Sound like you
So,
needed some roles filled there.
what?
Sound like you needed some roles filled there.
Oh man. Well, yeah. I mean, it's community theater, you know.
Yeah.
But I got to play a really fun part and like be the teacher guy, perfect for. And my daughter was one of the daughters of the family, you know, that he visits, and so it was just fun to be able to do something like that with my daughter, and then and feed that, you know, that need or that desire, and but that was about it until one day when I was at work and my brother called me up, my younger brother, and says, hey, Vince, you know, my kids were getting a little older by this time. And so I had a little bit more time, and he knew that. And he also knew that I'd always wondered what it would be like, you know, to be on a set and to actually do film. In fact, when I'd done the stage stuff, people said, you know, like a director, I remember one guy in particular would say, you know, Vince, you need it was always telling me to make stuff bigger, you know, for the stage, make it bigger. And he would say, you know, you'd probably really be good on film. You'd be good for film. And I was like, oh man, I would love to try that. But finally, my brother calls me up and he's like, hey, there's an open casting call for a film that they're making down in Cincinnati. It was a Bruce Willis film.
I recall this one. Yeah. I remember hearing some chatter about that with, I was at the time PAing on like a commercial shoot, and some of the grips said that they had gotten offered to go on it, but you know they had to take like a pay. They would have had to take like a pay cut, and so it wouldn't have. It's not something they want to do. They were long over like, oh, I want to go see a celebrity. You know, they were just they were like, yeah, no, I'm not taking a pay cut. So, but no, I do remember that.
Yeah, you know, I'd never been on a set, and so I thought, wow, that'd be cool to find out what that's like. Now, my brother told me, because he had been at years and years before, he'd been an extra on a really cool film called Little Man Tate that they actually shot up here in Oxford, a good bit of here in Oxford. That was Little Man Tate. That was Jodie Foster was in that and directed that. Really cool film. So he was like a kid kicking around a hacky sack on campus back then in the background. And you know, it had been described to me, you know, you're going to stand around a lot, you know, you're going to be corralled into a certain area with all the other extras, you know, and then when they need you, you know, after you're, you know, they're going to bring you out and you're going to do a little something. I thought, you know, if I could get something like that, maybe I'll be an onlooker or a bystander or something, you know, and I'll get to see what it's like. And so I went down to the theater complex in Kenwood, and there was like, you know, hundreds and hundreds of people in a big long line all wrapped around the theater complex there, you know. We stood around for hours talking, you know, it was fun getting to know the other people in line. And as we got closer and closer to getting inside the theater lobby where they were taking people's names and taking people's pictures and stuff, the one guy I'd gotten to know, who was just a couple of people behind me in line, he looked at me and he was like, you know, and I guess he'd been an extra in some things before. And so he said, he just looked at me and he said, hey, they're going to call you. I was like,
really?
Oh, that's cool. I don't know how you know that, but that'd be great, you know, out of all these people. So,
why do you think he had that unction, that suspicion that, you know, it's just that level of intuition? Was it something you said, or do you just like more of a charismatic guy, just like kind of making friends with everybody?
I do not know. I do not know. Maybe, well, you know, I mean, he'd had experience doing it himself, so maybe he had an idea what they were looking for. Maybe it was just as simple as, you know, as that. Like he knew they were going to be looking for, like, you know, policemen and agents and things like that, and just thought that, you know, well, you'll fit that. I don't know. Got inside finally, filled out my name. They took my picture. You know, well, if we need you, we'll call you. You know, and I left, and I really tried to kind of just put it out of my mind. You know, exciting an idea as it was. But yeah, a couple weeks later, riding my bike home from work, got a phone call. Don't always answer the phone, especially if I don't recognize the number. But I happened to stop and answer the phone, and they were like, and the person on the other end was, oh man, ah, I'm doing her a disservice not to remember her name. She was from Lynn Myers,
Okay.
agency down there in Cincinnati. Anyway, she called me and said, and then that's when I learned, you're going to get an email the night before, and can you be available these certain dates? I'm like, yeah. And I thought, well, I'll go. I'll stand around for a while and I'll get to see what it's like. But it wasn't like that. I mean, this experience was so fun. I mean,
It wasn't boring. Like a lot of sets, like,
not
film sets, they can be boring at times and like having those couple of
absolutely.
highlights, but
Yeah, well, I've learned that since. But that time, I mean, like, first of all, I got the email finally that, like 3 a.m. the night before, and it says character, field detective. And I was like, oh, cool. I got a character, right? That's neat. And, told me what to bring, where to be, when. They had a base camp set up at was it the Horseshoe, or it was like a casino down there in Cincinnati?
Yeah, Horseshoe Casino.
Yeah. And so, there's all the trailers set up in a great big tent with a big buffet, lots of great food sitting out. And they're like, hey, welcome to set, sign in, go get yourself some food. Had some nice salmon, and then they're like, okay, go to hair, go to makeup, go to wardrobe. And it was like clockwork, man. I mean, get on the van, take it to the location.
This was for a feature?
What's that?
This was for a feature? Yeah.
Yeah. It was, it was that Bruce Willis film, Marauders.
Oh, yeah, Marauders, yeah.
Yeah, so, they take it, and then get to the set. And they're like, all right, here's your props, here's a gun, here's a badge, holster, notebook. And then, the AD is like, here's what you're going to do when they say action, run through it a couple times. This big open safe. We were at the Stockyard Bank. It was a totally cool setting. And, I mean, action, practice through it, and then action, film it a couple times from a couple different angles. And they're like, okay, D-prop, get back on the van. I mean, it was no wasted time. I bet I was on set for 20 minutes or a half hour that day. And then I was headed back.
Is that the most efficient set that you've been on? Because sometimes, like, especially in the indie world, there's a little bit of latency going on in terms of the production.
Right. No, but the next couple of days doing that set were just as efficient as that, only much longer. I mean, but totally cool. I mean, I'm like, okay, go, when they say action, run across the street and talk to the cop in the cruiser, and then go over here, and there's this blown out glass door with glass strewn everywhere and a big pool of blood, and photographer down there taking pictures, and you taking notes, and then when the FBI agent comes in, we'll talk to her, and it was just so fun. And then I got to stand there while the main, characters, did some of their dialogue, and I was close enough that I could hear them in person. I could also see what was coming up on camera, because I just happened to be near one of the monitors. And they were, trying a couple different things and making a couple little mistakes, and it was hot and sweaty, and they were working hard, man. And it was just like, they were shooting stuff, trying this and trying that. And I just thought, man, what fun. Those guys, I mean, they're working hard, but holy cow, how fun would it be to pretend like that on camera? And that was Dave Bautista and Chris Maloney. And I can't remember the female lead's name. Just having a conversation, but it was just such a cool experience. I just thought, man, I want to do more of this. And then that's how, and I always tell people that are interested in this stuff, that's how I at least, got to know other people that were interested in that kind of thing, and then I did a couple more stints as an extra on a couple other films that were, where you get to end up getting to know local filmmakers, people that do their own projects and stuff like that. And then they post something on Facebook. Hey, we're going to shoot this. We need somebody to play this or that part. So they go send me a tape or, that kind of thing. So just one thing led to another. But my second experience as an extra on a set, though, was not quite the same as that. Lynn Myers called up or emailed or whatever and said, doing a a Hallmark thing for Mariah Carey,
Okay.
Christmas special thing. And they're like, and if you have family, bring your family because we're going to be an audience member and you're going to be like all happy and cheering for Mariah and the other actors on the stage at like this Christmas pageant. So I asked my two of my three kids, hey, you want to be in a movie? You want to go be on set? And they were like, sure, Dad. And we went down to it was in
Timbuktu.
subdivision. Anyway, we went down there and we sat for hours in this little like second grade classroom in these tiny chairs. And I mean, like most of the day, like we got down there at like maybe 10 or 11, we sat on this classroom and they were like, oh yeah, we're going to bring some pizza later. And like, that never happened, or maybe it happened finally at like 5 p.m. or something like that, and my kids were just going, Dad, what the heck?
You said this would be fun.
Yeah.
You said there was lots of food last time.
Right. But by the time, I think it was 9 in the evening by the time they actually needed us, and they kind of corralled us into the auditorium, and my kids were just going like, Dad, don't ever ask us to do anything like this.
They were fried.
Yeah. And then we were supposed to be all happy and enjoying the show, So they really had to work hard to gin up the enthusiasm. Although my youngest son didn't do too bad once he saw the youngest female lead. He was about 10 at the time, and I think that was probably about her age. She was pretty cute, and so
that'll do it.
That perked him up a little bit, but neither of them have been interested in the slightest in doing that kind of thing ever since.
I mean, I don't blame them. Did you? Do you think you got once you started doing film, it was a harder? Was there a difficulty in transitioning the style of acting from stage to being on camera?
I think the camera stuff actually came more naturally. Because I think when I was on stage, like I said, that one director more than once would say, I like what you're doing. I like the nuance of what you're doing, but, it doesn't come across as much on stage as it would on film.
Mm-hmm.
That just made me think, that made me realize what it was that really impacted me and impressed me as I grew up watching films and watching television, and it always was those little things, like
those little subtleties of the eye movements and
that's stuff that really I realized, really got me going and really made me enjoy a performance and get a kick out of it. And I thought, man, I would love to. I love the idea of invoking that same kind of enjoyment and that same kind of impression and or enthusiasm or emotion or whatever it is, that's communicating, to somebody else watching, because I enjoyed it so much.
Mm-hmm.
So many performances by so many of the greats, so that's the kind of thing I aspire to anyway.
Right. Well, since you had that experience with your on those larger sets first, and then you started getting more involved in the indie community. I'm sure you quickly discovered not all indie films are created equally. So there's people that you want to work with over and over again, and then there's people that's like that was a one and done deal. Are there any commonalities or red flags that you discovered early on when it came to working with somebody that you weren't familiar with beforehand? Because you don't want to waste your time,
Right. Right. And part of the deal is, I'm older, I'm late to this game in life as far as actually, being on camera. And so part of my thought was, you're not getting any younger, I'm like, well, see what'll happen. Go for it. Give it a try. And what like so many people have said, that I've met since, but I don't know. I think I'm developing some discernment about that kind of thing. I mean, usually for me, it's about the story. And if I can just get somebody to let me read the script that they're working on,
Yeah.
then I kind of know. And honestly, I don't, if I don't know them and I don't know their work, I mean, I try to find out, I try to look at some of the work that they've done, or, that kind of thing, and then see where they are in their progress, but I figure, hey, I'm new to this too. So I'm just learning along the way. So, we can learn together.
Sure. Yeah.
But usually really more than anything for me, it's about like the story and how it's written. I'm just looking for great stories. Um, there is a trend, I think, to shoot for the most sort of sensational or bombastic sort of moments in film that will get you noticed, as a writer or director or something, I guess.
Which is somewhat understandable, especially if you're starting your career. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it seems like right now that I don't know if I would say, I don't know if the easiest or maybe like most likely path that people seem to be taking is like horror stuff. Which, some of it I really like, some of it I just not that into.
And it's easier to do on an indie level, though, because it's generally practical effects tend to be the thing that shines in the horror element, and you don't always have to. It's relying on making something scary and giving that the audience that particular fright and that jolt in their nervous system, So it's not so much like, I mean, sure, you can make big budget horror with like supernatural elements and demons and then that sort of thing, but with horror, it's there's you don't necessarily need to have it in order to actually accomplish a good horror movie,
Yeah. And I think even the ones, the horror films that I like are the ones that tend to focus a lot on character and, the interaction of different characters and stuff like that and relationships. And, I don't know, that's, I especially appreciate character driven stuff. I guess I think that's the phrase people use, character driven. But, that's the most fun to get into as an actor, I'm sure. Although it is fun I would love to do plenty of, more action-y stuff too. I mean, I've told plenty of people that, my body still seems to be working well. So, I would love to use it, to its fullest while I can. So I'd love to do more of that kind of thing too. The very first, when we talked earlier, a little bit, you mentioned, Henry Zerwanka's film.
Yeah, Analog Rainbow,
where we worked together. That was actually one of my first speaking roles on anything. I'd done one before that where I actually, had a considerable part, and that was a thing with a student group here in Oxford at Miami. Every year they do a capstone production, second semester, and they did a thing. They wanted to do a thing called the Suicide Man.
Okay.
And it was like a humorous, but also when you sort of take on depression and dealing with depression, and they ended up asking me to do the lead. And I thought, well, I'll audition for a speaking role. Maybe I'll get an opportunity to see what it's like, what I do, or what I look like, or how I come across on camera, what in an actual speaking role. And so I auditioned for one of the supporting roles for that, and they actually asked me to do the lead in that. So that was quite an experience. And then the next thing after that was the Analog Rainbow. And
so they were back to back.
Yeah. Which was such an honor. Well, yeah, it was like I saw the opportunity on Facebook, and so I thought, well, I'll see if I can do, because by that time I'd been able to see, how I came across on camera in The Suicide Man. In fact, I went to the screening, and my daughter came with me, and I was kind of holding my breath, like, I don't know if what
Fingers
I thought
crossed.
I was doing is what actually shows up there or not. And we watched it, and I was like, and then my daughter said to me after the thing, "Dad, I like forgot it was you."
Ooh,
And I thought,
okay.
well, okay, all right, maybe I can do this, you know? So I'll keep giving it a shot. So I've just been learning since then. And Analog Rainbow was such a unique project. I mean, Henry, holy cow, I don't even think he's done anything since then, film wise.
He's I talked to him a couple weeks ago. We still we still speak on, you know, every now and then, and he actually sent me a script for the next thing he's wanting to work on, because he's
Oh,
back in
really?
town. Yeah, he's back in town after traveling, you know, doing missions work with his wife. You know, he got after
Yeah.
Analog Rainbow, he got married, and then, you know, there was a large gap there, and, you know, was figuring out how he wanted to spend, you know, kind of the rest of his life.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, he's he's got something in the books. Yeah. Because I talked
Sweet.
to Joe Cox.
Uh-huh.
He's like, yeah, I love Anal. I'd love to be able to talk to Henry and everything. And so, like, Henry's got his own little fan base here in Cincinnati, I've come to find out.
Yeah, from one project.
Yeah.
One project. I mean, just out of high school, this kid has a vision, you know, or something he wants to create. And it was art, I think. I mean, what told me that was when and I've told people this before, but when he sent us a cut to watch and get our feedback on,
Mm.
and I watched it the first time through just to, you know, get to enjoy it and to, you know, get the story and stuff. And so then I was gonna watch it a second time, and I got out my notepad, you know, and my pencil, and I'm gonna, you know, give him some feedback on some of this stuff. And I don't know, I got probably 5-10 minutes into it, and I forgot that was what I was doing,
Mm.
because I was so into the story by that time, and I was seeing things that I hadn't seen the first time, you know.
Yeah.
And each time I've watched it since then, I've noticed little details that he's stuck in there that were obviously in his head, you know, and that between him and Luke, that the cinematographer, you know, that
Mm.
they came up with while they were doing it, and just all kinds of little visual details and sound details. And I mean, the way he used color in that thing, I just, I think it's fascinating. And for that to be his first real project, which I think it was, and then for him to just like take off and start traveling the world and not even make any intimation that he was going to do anything like that ever again, I was just like blown away. Like, what? So it's
Yeah.
good to know that he's back, and it's good to know he's thinking of doing something else.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Well,
Joe's probably real happy.
yeah, yeah, he's happy. Like I feel like I broke the news to him, and then I broke news to you that he's like back in town and everything, and so like it might end up coming to the point where, like, the only reason anybody knows anything is because he talked to me and I told a bunch of other people. I,
Oh, that'd be great.
I don't know if
Oh,
he'll be
yeah.
happy about that, but I think it'll just be a surprise to him. You know, he'll be all right. Yeah. Were there any lessons that you learned in terms of the performance in hindsight when you went to watch back what you did on Analog Rainbow that you found yourself reusing in other in terms of techniques reusing on other sets?
Well, you know, I would say both of those first two films, you know, gave me things like that. Uh, I can, you know, when I look at if and when you know, I wasn't on a camera a ton on Analog Rainbow. I mostly just enjoy the fact that I'm a part of it, you know,
Mm.
because I think, you know, he did such a fantastic job with the work overall, and the other actors in it, like, you know, Kira and Brandy,
Hmm.
with Brandy Bodkin. I mean, that was the first that I just met the two of them for the first time on that set, and you know, they become good friends. And man, I mean, there's a scene between the two of them in the kitchen. Brandy's the daughter, and it's such a powerful performance. I'm like, sheesh. Okay, you know, I was no expert. I'm no expert, you know, by this time certainly. And I'm like, but I was like, those guys got it. I mean, Brandy, holy cow, she's that thing, whatever it is. I feel like she's got it, you know, and she gave it in that performance. And I thought, I'm going to see her. I'm going to see both these guys some more on
Hmm.
sets.
Yeah.
And sure enough, we've ended up being able to work together on other stuff. Wow, what a joy! What an honor! What a pleasure to be able to work with them. Yeah.
Have you had
So
a? Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. So the things I learned, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I could put into words a lot of the stuff that I pick up. It's just like I'm observing. I'm taking mental notes, but I don't know that if they're I don't know if they're in words yet. You know, but I love it and I enjoy watching other performers do their thing. And I do feel like, I maybe kind of subconsciously pick up little things, little tricks. I do see myself, I can tell when I'm on camera and I'm, and I'm worried about, how I'm coming across versus when I'm just playing the character,
Mm.
and just being the person.
You can tell when you're in your own head.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And oh boy, that's the worst, but you see yourself doing it and you're like, you dummy, you gotta get back into, honoring the character instead of worrying about how you're coming across.
When you
And so,
recognize that, how do you get out of your own head and then back into the character?
you know, uh, that is a thing that for me, I think goes pretty deep. There was a performance that I gave, an acting performance on stage. I had an opportunity to go to Russia, to Moscow, Russia, back in the very early 90s. The wall had just come down and so all kinds of influences were flooding over into Russia, and I was a part of it. By that time I'd enrolled in a homeschooling program that ended up recruiting like 50 guys to go teach English as a foreign language in the Moscow public schools.
Hmm.
And they asked if I wanted to be one of those guys, and I just happened to have I was at a place where I was single and I had been saving up money, paid off student loans, and was saving up money. Cars were starting to look kind of nice, but I happened to have just enough saved to do that trip and have that experience. And so I went to Moscow and did that. And while I was there, we would put on shows, usually, like they were a Christian. It was a Christian organization, and so they would have programs on the weekends at this big theater there, and we would do skits and stuff like that. And we did one, and really it was just pantomime, but it was they wanted to do the story of David and Goliath. And so somebody just narrated, and they asked if I would be David. Well, for me, that was kind of a big deal because David is one of those towering figures to me from that book.
Mm-hmm.
And in particular, that part of the book is something I'm very familiar with. I love the Psalms. And I would say, for years and years of my life, I read them every day. Just as a matter of course, and they just mean a ton to me. And I know that he wrote a bunch of them, and they are a matter of his just kind of pouring out his heart, and I just, and then I read in that book that David was a man after God's own heart. It says, I'm like, wow, how cool would that be to be known that way? Well, so really into the character of David and knowing David and who David is and the things that he felt and the way he poured those things out, to God and and the kinds of things he went, the struggles that he went through and things like that. And so all that was in my head, and they're asking me if I will act just in a skit, David. And it seemed to me a huge weight of even though it was just a skit, it seemed to me like a pretty weighty thing, to do. And it actually motivated me to pray. Okay. So when I did that, when I went into that opportunity with that mindset, with that sort of like, the idea was, oh man, help. I want to do this right. I want to honor who this person was. and I want them to come across, to the audience.
Hmm.
I want there to be something genuine about that really, really depicts him. And anything I know, anything I've been exposed to, of who he is, I want that to come across. And so that became like a prayer. I would say like a prayer. And so that was my mindset when I was on stage. And because of that, I didn't even realize it was happening, but I just completely kind of forgot any sort of self-consciousness and just like was David.
Hmm.
And, at least in my mind, in my heart, and that was confirmed for me, afterward when people came up and said, hey man, that was pretty powerful, they said. And so I thought, well, I mean, that was wonderful and that was a great experience. And I felt like I learned something about that, about performance in general. Cause at that time I was, basically if I did any performing, it was music. And, but it made me think, yeah, that should be your attitude all the time. If you really want to do something meaningful. So how do I get out of my head when I'm in that kind of situation now, when I'm on set? I mean, it's different in different situations because, if you're doing a horror film or something like that, you're not, it's not like I don't know if it's like you're praying your way through it, but it's like, but when I have that mindset that I want something genuine, something true, something real that is in the author's mind or heart, I want to communicate that. I want that to come through. Then I really feel kind of like I just need to get out of the way. That's the mindset that that I try to go back to. And even if it means literally, starting to pray, sometimes it does.
Interesting. What was the last script that you said no to and why?
Oh, uh, what, what? I think, I mean, the first one that comes to mind is one that actually is doing really well now.
That's ironic.
It was a horror film, and it was just like, I don't know, I read it and I was like, they were doing it down in Atlanta and they were like, hey man, we think you'd be good for this character. And I was like, and I read it and I was like, it was interesting, but I don't know. I just couldn't see myself playing this particular character. Also, I didn't know if I wanted to kind of brand myself in this particular kind of character or not. And so, because I understand that's a thing. And so I said, I really appreciate it. Now it's like blowing up. I think it's at least going to be on, some streaming services and stuff.
Oh,
So I'm really happy for the guys that did that. And
had you taken similar roles that had commonalities with that character that you were approached to do before that?
no, I don't think so. I now I'm probably, I don't know if I'm ending up getting kind of typecast as the dad. It seems like lately it's either like a cop, like a policeman, or a dad. It's happening.
Funny enough, I saw an interview with Kira, mildly lamenting about getting typecast as a soccer mom.
Yeah,
it sounds like she shares somewhat of a similar sentiment.
You know what, Kira though, she's so flexible and so she's got range, man. And not only in her acting, but in how she looks. I mean, she can change her look so much. You don't even. I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that have that do not even connect one of her characters with another, even though it's the same actress playing them, just because they look so different. And she'll change her accent or her mannerisms and stuff. But yeah, I got to. It's not that I don't like darker stuff at all, though, because for instance, one of the scenes I'm probably most proud of was the one that I did with Brandy. In one of Joe Cox's short films called Judge. And I don't know. I mean, I think I've managed to be pretty ominous in that. I mean, definitely Brandy made it easy because she was when you have a scene partner that like, that is very into their character, it's like you can't help but kind of fall into that yourself. It seems like, I mean, you got to get into it the way they are, and that's kind of the effect that working with somebody like her, I think has. So,
Hmm. Have you had similar experiences on set where actually not similar, but rather a more converse experience where you were the point man of trying to bring out the story through the characters, and then other people followed you through that?
well,
Because synergy is a real thing when it comes to the chemistry of different actors, even if it's not like, your quote unquote like romantic, relationship where it's supposed to, but the synergy and the chemistry is very intimate. It's just more in a general sense of just like marrying these people to the scene and making it realistic.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow. Well, you know how to say these things.
I do a lot of writing, so I I would like to think that I have some vocabulary.
Because my first experience with a speaking role on camera like that was one where I was playing a lead. That was the first thing that stood out to me as being important to be able to do. I think,
Hmm.
just kind of instinctively, like, hey, you need to. It's like you're a team, and you're supposed to, you have this role. A lot of the stuff seems to be centered around and focusing on you. You got to bring everybody else in. You got to bring the other performers in while you're. I guess I don't know. Without sounding, I, I at least saw the importance of that in that situation, and so I think I try to keep that in mind. You know, even when I'm just playing when I'm playing one of the supporting roles or whatever. I mean, I just try to keep that sort of team mentality, and support the lead if that's what's going on. Um, give them something good to bounce off of.
Hmm.
I hope that answers the question.
Any answer is a good answer in my opinion. Um, what was the last script you said yes to but ended up regretting?
I don't think I've ever. Well, okay, that's gonna just sound so trite, but I don't think I've read any of them just because they've all been a matter of opportunities to learn stuff. Um, yeah, I would regret. Nah, I mean there have been some that's like, okay, well, this is going to be of lesser or greater quality. This is going to make me look better or worse. I mean, I suppose I could regret on that kind of basis, but I don't really, because it's all a matter of experience. It's all a matter of getting to know, uh, who has what strengths and abilities. And I love it when now, I end up on a set with somebody that I've worked before and I know really knows their stuff. That's the greatest. And it's so cool that it's like a little reunion, when you run into those people and see them on set again. It's like, yeah, all right, I get to work with you again. And
Kind of like
Joe,
American Horror Story, how they just reuse the same cast, but in a completely different context.
right, right. I mean, well, to some degree, that happened with Joe. Uh,
Oh, with Judge, yeah, I saw the top three people that were. It's like, this is Analog Rainbow. This is the cast of Analog Rainbow right here. Joe saw Analog Rainbow and be like, I need all of them.
yeah, Joe Cox. I think, and I've said this before, and I've told him this. I think one of his greatest strengths has been the ability to put together a really great team. Of folks who are going to make, they're going to put in like quality work, and I mean, that's held true as I've watched the people that I saw him work with go and do other projects, and I can see the strength of what they do. People like Carrie, um, what's her last name? And sound. She does sound. Uh, Carrie Stevens.
Okay.
Yeah, people like that. And you mentioned Luke, or we talked about Luke that did Analog Rainbow. Um, People like Ben McLean, people who you go and see do other work, and you can see the quality of it shining through in these other projects they do with other groups, with other people.
Hmm.
It's like, man, I hope I can do that with, with the acting part of it.
Was Suicide Man the most difficult role that you had to play to date?
Difficult. I wouldn't say it was the most difficult. It was probably the most physically demanding because there was a lot of running and jumping and falling and falling and falling on different angles and hitting the pavement this way and that way. And, um, but it was exhilarating. I mean, it was like exhausting, but like exhilarating at the same time. Um, Physically and well, emotionally. I mean, it was like, I mentioned that it has a lot to do with depression. And what's interesting, I'm kind of coming first full circle right now because I'm getting ready to do a stage show where that is really the main subject.
Hmm.
It's a show about a guy who grew up with a mother who struggled with severe depression and actually tried to take her life a couple of times, and how that affected his life growing up and things like that. And Tim telling his story, it's a one-man show. I'm going to do it here at Oxact at that theater, that local theater group. And so, but yeah, that Suicide Man, he was dealing with those things, and he was dealing with the kinds of thoughts that, and I'll say I've had, in my life. I mean, I don't know if everybody has or not. I kind of imagine that at one time or another they have thoughts like, man, like maybe people would just be better off without me,
Mm.
um, which is horrible, a horrible kind of thing to think.
Yeah.
But those are the kinds of thoughts that I had to really entertain as I was playing that character, and I could, like I said, I could find it in myself to relate to that and go there emotionally. And what I did, this is one of the things that I loved about the experience and that made me want to continue to pursue it, is that when I did go there, even to places like that, I knew that it was going to be okay. I could go there, I could experience that, I could take all the things I'd ever thought or felt that would relate to that and put them into that, and go through them again. Why? Because I had the thought, like, why have I been storing up all these kinds of thoughts and emotions? And that's what I feel like I've been doing my entire life, is storing a bunch of stuff up like that.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of images, a bunch of places and smells and experiences that's like, why do I want to keep those things so fresh and so sort of close to close to the surface? Why is it that I find it not difficult to for there to be tears in a certain situation, and I think it's knowing that you can have those kinds of feelings, have those kinds of thoughts. You can go to those places, but you can come back. And every time you do that in a role, I don't know, it's kind of therapeutic almost. Like, it's like,
That's what I've heard. That's what I've heard. Because like I thought when I talked to Theo, and asked about an instance where he had to cry on camera.
Theo White.
Yeah, Theo White. Yeah,
Yeah,
one of the first guests I had. Yeah. He said that he didn't have to engineer the tears in order for them to come. And it's that little space, that little window of vulnerability that, for some reason, like I've heard just lets people that even though they're playing a character, it's coming from a real place within themselves, and then it's like opening the faucet and just letting it out. So it's not the character's tears, it's really them. It might not be coming from the same circumstance that they're portraying, it's not a one-to-one correlation.
Right.
But there's two camps when it comes to portraying emotion. There's one where it's conceptual compassion, where you can deeply understand in your head about why, the whys and the hows of what this character is going through, and then try and portray that. And then there's personal empathy that you're impugning the character with, that gives that performance a level of authenticity that you might not otherwise the other way. Which one do you think works better for you, when it comes to portraying a character?
Sounds like the way you described the latter one, the second one. So that's what I really enjoy about playing a character. Even if it's comedy, even if it's something funny too. I mean, it applies there just as much. I mean, humor, they say humor is, was it pathos? I mean, there's actual
pathos.
Pathos, yeah. But there's a degree of humor that's based in tragedy even, and so there's a lot of emotion involved there. I love being able to go there and come back, and something about that, and the idea that you can take an audience, or you can take a viewer, or a group of viewers there as well, and kind of, to me, in a sense, it's like an opportunity to reassure them, that you can go there and come back and you're going to be okay, or that you can have, you can be exhilarated. You can have a wonderful experience, and there'll be another one sometime.
Right. What type of film or genre of film that you haven't done yet that you think you could do really well? Or maybe a particular character that, fits within a specific type of film?
I don't feel like I've really done I don't know. Probably more action.
More action?
Yeah.
Just built for rolling on the ground.
Yeah. I enjoy that. And like I said, I mean, physically I seem to be doing okay. So I like to use that. I don't know. I just enjoy, I mean, I've played most of the roles I've played, whether it's been comic or tragic or just dramatic. They've been what I like to think of as I love that idea of the everyman, sort of character. That kind of pretty average guy, which is what I kind of feel like I am in a lot of ways, put in extraordinary circumstances, and having to deal with that. And how's he going to deal with that? How does that bring out? What does that bring out in him? I love that idea. That's what I want more of. I don't know if I'm sure I'd love to do more, more comedy as well. I haven't, I've read some funny stuff and some stuff that lends itself to humor and been in that kind of thing, but I've not actually been in a real comedy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I haven't actually read anything that to me struck me as like great comedy, as far as the writing goes. Now there's a guy named Maki Dapp. Have you heard that name?
Yeah, that was the director of the commercial shoot that I was on when Bruce Willis was filming his Marauder thing here.
No way, what commercial was it?
It was for like some car commercials. I don't know if they ever came out or anything, but it was produced by Oh
Monkey.
God. It was produced by Ryan. Is it Ryan Holiday or Ryan? It's Ryan something. I forget. It's been a while. But yeah, Maki Depp was the director on those, and me, Henry, and Luke, and then another person were all PAing on that particular shoot for a couple days. Yeah.
Man, I love his stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
he has there's a certain spirit that comes through. It's kind of it's kind of up, it's kind of positive. Um, have you seen any of the longer film? Have you seen his feature film? Oh, what's, uh,
I think I know which one you're
another
talking
mean,
about.
like
Yeah,
another.
it's like the multiverse movie,
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
It
I did
is,
see that one. Yeah.
and that to me, that's great comedy, man.
Mm.
Heartfelt, but like hilarious at the same time. And he got some great people to play those characters, man. It's a great ensemble. He did the same thing with the thing that Patrick was in. Patrick's worth now. See, now Patrick's worked a lot with Brandy. Patrick.
Johnston.
No, I love Patrick Johnston too.
I'm like,
No, Patrick. Uh, Brandy, if you ever watch this, you gotta supply it in the comments or something. 'Cause Patrick's awesome. He looks like. Oh, we're not gonna go there. Um,
gotta keep friends,
no, he knows because everybody always says it. But anyway, it was called The Haunting of Somebody.
Mm.
I don't know if you've ever seen that, but I'll send you a link.
Yes,
That's a great one too. That's the first thing I ever saw that Mikey App did, and hilarious and strange and fun. He does some great stuff. I would love to do more of that kind of quirky humor, comic stuff.
Have you not done comedies yet, or like a specifically genred comedy film?
The closest thing I've done to that would be a balanced breakfast for Joe. Joe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mentioned that.
Yeah. So that was kind of a comic character. I think he was a little over the top.
Well, Vince, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. It was great talking to you. Do you have any final thoughts you want to leave with the audience? Words of wisdom, words of warning, tales of old.
You know what? I just anybody who might be interested in watching this, I'm sure many of you have seen or worked with, and if I haven't yet, I'm looking forward to it. Stick with it, enjoy what you're doing, stay enthusiastic. Look forward to seeing you next time on set, including you, man.
Yeah. I'm looking. Well, we were supposed to be on set together,
right.
But it was a close call. It was a close call on that one. But yeah, actually, I'll probably see you at the maybe see you at the film festival this evening because it's Johnny's. Yeah.
Go see Johnny.
Go see Johnny. Yeah, I told him the other day, when I talked to him, I'm like, dude, you got the most Italian mobster name that I've ever come across. Is like straight out of The Godfather, Johnny Catalano. It's like I would try to do an accent, but like I know I would just butcher it. And it'd be very, very disrespectful. But yeah, it's it's like
it's a great name for a film festival too. It just comes across like it's been around forever, and like, of course, oh well, haven't you been?
It's got that old world type of sound to it.
Yeah. Like you should just know about the Catalano Film Festival.
See, if I were to stick my last name next to a film festival, it just wouldn't work. But that one particularly, yeah, Catalano, like that.
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
Tell me about it, Smith.
The Smith Film Festival. All right. Thanks, Vince.
Thank you.
Yeah.